Jnana and Bhakti are the two main paths to God or enlightenment in every religion and every culture all across the world. The path of devotion and the path of knowledge. So often, knowledge and devotion seem like they are opposites of each other. The philosophies that are based on knowledge and the philosophies that are based on devotion often debate with each other, and they say that their path is the ultimate path. And it almost always seems like these two are very different from each other. But today we will go deep into the nature of religion and we will understand what is God in the deepest level. And we will understand how Jnana and Bhakti, which is knowledge and devotion, though they seem like two very different approaches, are pointing us towards that same reality and they are actually saying the same thing. We will understand this through the three parts of this video. The Adhvaitha channel is about conscious living and conscious creation. Here we explore Vedanta and various spiritual teachings from ancient India to understand the nature of reality and to consciously create our lives. So make sure to hit like and subscribe to our channel to help us spread this knowledge. Part 1 is about my understanding of God through Vedanta. As per Advaita Vedanta or non-dualism, the God is transcendent and immanent. The God is beyond the universe and is the universe at the same time. Vedanta says all there is consciousness. All there is one reality, and we are all that same reality. Duality is a mere perception of the mind. It is an illusion because of Maya. Inherently, we are one and the same, and we are also one with God. That God is truly infinite. He is all pervading. He is eternal and He is absolute. And you and me are one with that absolute reality. This is Advaita Vedanta. And through my exploration and understanding of Advaita Vedanta, I also wrote and published the book Decoding God. So, if you want to go deeper into the teachings of Advaita Vedanta on nature of reality and God, you can check out the book Decoding God on Amazon. In part 2, let us understand Bhakti. Bhakti is devotion. Religions like different schools of Hinduism, Sufism, and Christianity are primarily based on devotion. Here, we look at God as someone who is apart from us, who is beyond us. We see God in the external world and we see God as the creator of this universe. But still, we say God is infinite. God is the independent reality, and our world and ourself, we are dependent realities who depend on that God for our existence. So, this is the general outline of every philosophy that is based on devotion. Here, if we look at some of the philosophies like Vishishta Advaita, the entire world is looked at as God, as Virat. The world is a form of God and we are a part of it. And there is a distinction here between us and God, and we create a relationship between ourselves and that infinite God or consciousness. And this relationship is devotion. I love God, God loves me, I surrender to God, God helps me, guides me, and God takes care of me. This is devotion. But one thing is what we should make note here. Even in the path of devotion, the religions and the philosophies say that God is the only independent reality. We are all dependent on God for our existence, whereas God exists independently apart from us and He is beyond us. In part 3, let us understand Jnana, knowledge. This is the path of Jnana Yoga, of intellectual realization. Advaita Vedanta and Buddhism are very good examples of this path. And here I'll talk from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta to explain the nature of reality and to explain what God is as per Advaita. Now, that God is absolute, it is infinite, it is limitless, and it is independent. This much almost every religion and philosophy will agree to. But we need to observe this carefully to uncover the nature of reality. What Adiguru Shankaracharya says is that only the independent reality truly exists, and the dependent realities technically do not exist at all. They only appear to exist, and they are temporary phenomenon. To understand this better, we can look at the example of the clay and the pot. If we look at clay and the pot, which is the form of the clay, we can understand that clay existed before the creation of the pot, and the clay will continue to exist even after the destruction of the pot. Even after the pot breaks, clay will continue to exist. But what about when the pot is still there? What we need to see here is that even when the pot exists, it is clay alone. The pot is in and through clay and nothing else. Every aspect of the pot is clay. Clay is simply a name that we give to the form, but the form technically does not exist at all. The form does not have an independent existence apart from clay. The form is entirely dependent on clay, and in fact, the pot is clay alone in and through. Like this, what Shankaracharya tells us is God is the fundamental essence of reality. God is that clay to this universe, which is the pot. And even when the universe exists, and even when we experience all this duality in this world, it is God alone which actually exists. It is only because of the nature of our mind we are seeing duality and we are experiencing ourselves to be apart from God. In this way, there is absolute unity and absolute non-duality in this existence. This is Advaita Vedanta. And this is the knowledge, this is jnana. And through this knowledge, going into deep contemplation and meditation and self-inquiry to find out the self, that is that infinite consciousness, is jnana yoga. So I think jnana and bhakti are telling us the same thing in different ways. They are different approaches to that one same reality. How I have understood this is, if there is God and if that God is infinite, absolute and independent, and if all of us are dependent on that God, then we can either find that God outside of us, because that God is everywhere, and we can create a relationship between us and that God, and we can call this devotion, and we can pursue this path and we can find God outside of us. But at the same time, since that God is everywhere, that God must be within us also. So if this is the case, we must be able to find God through knowledge of self and through self-inquiry and meditation and contemplation. So through this path also, that same God can be found. So although these approaches seem like they are opposites of each other and they are pointing towards different things, I think they are fundamentally pointing us towards that same reality. I think there is one God, there is one infinite consciousness, and trying to find it outside of us is devotion, and trying to find it inside of us is self-inquiry and knowledge. The paths are different, but the destination is the same.